Hello, and welcome back to the Keys to Success podcast. You have Talisa Stubbs in the house, along with my beautiful co host, Deba Douglas. How are you doing today, girl?
I am doing good, Talisa. Things have been busy and crazy all at the same time, but it has been something I'm super grateful for. So yeah, it's been great.
I mean, you're not lying. It's been busy, it's been crazy, it's been all the things. But one thing about us is like we are fighters.
Yes.
Like it's gonna take a whole lot to knock us down, and we gonna get back up every single time. Like,
Every single time. And I don't know if you do this, but I keep telling myself, oh yeah, when things slow down, I'm going to do this. I have been telling myself that for the past 3 years, and I'm now have to just take it in. It's not going to slow down. Either you're going to add it to your plate or you're going to say no to it. So just figure out where you're going to be.
whew, and talk about saying no. Like
Yes.
I still somewhat struggle with that. Like just kind of taking on more than what I
Yes.
taking on just because of the sake of, oh, I don't want to say no to certain things, but some things just have to be a no so that we can focus on the things that are more important. So
Yes, that is so true. And lately, I've been spending a lot of time with my brother and my sister-in-law and with Samson. And I kind of feel like my brother and deal with the same things of like, well, we don't want to let someone down. We don't want to, we're just going to do it, even though we know we don't have the time or capacity to do it. But I will tell you, my husband has been telling me for years. And then my brother's wife, Candy, has been telling me the same thing and telling her husband, my brother, the same thing, like, you know what, just turn it off, like turn the phone off. Eventually, if they keep calling, they don't get from you, they'll go to somebody else, because you cannot be at their beck and call and give them so much access at all times. And I'm learning to like pull it back. They're not going to die. And
mhm.
listening to my husband and Candy at the same time, I'm like, it's okay, like it's okay. So I'm working through it.
Girl, I mean, yesterday I got a text from somebody at like 8 o'clock last night. Well, first they called and I didn't answer it. And then right afterwards they sent me a text, and they wanted a response immediately. And I felt guilty at first, like, oh, let me go ahead and just take care of this. But I'm like, if I open up that door, they're going to feel like they're I'm that accessible to them all of the time. And
Yeah.
that's just not the case. It's 8 o'clock at night. Like,
Yes. And boundaries are so, so real. So real.
yeah. So, anyways, that's something that we're still working on. But I do kind of like to just kind of have these chats before we kind of dive into our topic for the day. But last week I had the opportunity to share, my first deal, my experience. And this week, Deba, I want you to share your first deal. What were the ups? What were the downs? How much were you able to make, and what was the overall experience as a whole for you?
Yeah, so I'm so excited to share my first deal. And I'm going to share like two of my first deals. Like one was like just purchasing an investment property right from the MLS. And then I did a burr. And so a lot more complicated, a lot more craziness. But what I did do, and I guess now it's more valuable than it was when I actually did it, is that I literally had a journal of me journaling my experience of becoming a real estate investor from the very, very beginning. And so, what I would do is when we were thinking about looking at a property, I would use this journal and kind of write down, this is the property, let's analyze it. Does it make sense? So, there's like almost like 30 pages of doing that leading up to actually buying the first property. So, one, that's just keep going, the tenacity of like just still keep doing it. And I remember doing it at the time. My husband was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I need a place so I can just keep all my thoughts together because I'm scared of going into this new world. But one day I'm going to look back on this and appreciate me pouring out my emotions and everything else that I was going through." So, literally, what I'm going to do real quick is just read a little snippet of literally, we closed on this first investment property October 19th, 2018, and we didn't know what we were doing. And I will tell you, it took us almost a year to get to this place because we were saying we're going to do it, We read a book, and then we decided to like cut back on, going out, doing fun stuff, vacations, and so forth, and save our money to put our first 20% down on a property. And so that day finally came in October. So I'm just going to read a quick snippet of like how we were feeling in that moment, my husband and I. So it says, "We are excited, nervous, anxious, but we are trusting God to see us through this. We allow ourselves to step in areas where only God can help us. We step into this new season with boldness that God is with us. We are thankful for where we are and how we plant this seed for our boys. Noah and Isaiah, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, have already been blessed with this first property. Give God all the glory. Try and try again. You only fail if you don't try." That
Mhm.
literally just brings chills and makes me want to cry because I didn't even know what I was planting. I was just doing something that I felt like God continued to nudge at me to do. And to read this now, like, I mean, what's that? Almost 4 or 5 years later?
Oh,
Like, man,
talk about manifestation. Like, you talked about just creating that wealth for your two boys, and now you even have your daughter. And I mean, how many properties now? Like 20,
like over 20.
like, come, like, oh my goodness. But it starts right there. Like, you were scared, you were anxious, you were nervous, you had trust in God that God's plan was going to play out for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And I literally even wrote down the time that we closed because they had to come to my freaking job because of course as a principal you can't leave to go to the title office.
Oh,
So
so
they came to my office to
you're
sign.
still working
I
when you
was still a building principal. Yeah, I was still a principal when I closed on this first property. So let's talk a little bit about that property. I kind of shared with you like the emotions of what we were going through. And this property was in Fort Worth. Mind you, my husband and I live about an hour away. But when we were analyzing deals, Fort Worth just seemed to make better sense when it came to the numbers. This was actually a duplex that we purchased, and I'm just going to run down the numbers. The purchase price was 128,000, and on here I put we were under contract for two duplexes at the time. One was for 128, one was for 129. We went past the option period, all of that, and it was the day before we were going to sign that we backed out of the other duplex because we were so terrified of like, this is a lot of money that we're putting up. Is this really even going to work? So
Mhm.
thank God we didn't back out of both of them. We just backed out of one of them. And so our closing costs came out to be right around 36,000. And so what we ended up doing was we used 19,000 from our personal money that we have saved. And then we had a HELOC that we took out that went against our equity for our house. And we used 17,000 of that HELOC.
Gotcha.
And so the reason why we ended up doing that was because we were like, the tenants are going to pay, because at that time, both units were already occupied. The tenants were paying about $700 a month on each side. Our mortgage was going to come out to be right at 1158. So we were like, okay, 1158, we're okay with that. And the tenants were both paying 700 a month, so that's 1400. So we were going to make a little bit of something and still be able to pay our HELOC payment, and then the rest we just kept for maintenance and expenses and our, cap expenses.
Gotcha.
And so we ended up, our interest rate at the time was 5.99, which we thought was high. But because it was a duplex, the lenders did say that it does count because it's a higher risk of like now you're getting an investment property.
Hmm.
We weren't able to do house hacking because I know a lot of people are thinking, well, why don't you do house hacking? We already owned a house. So there was no other way to flag it but an investment property. So that's why we had to bring so much cash down. I mean, I wrote down everything down to the T. My insurance was with State Farm and we were paying 138 a month. My taxes was 264. My monthly I guess the monthly principal and insurance principal and interest was 579. And then we ended up getting a property management company. I'm not going to say the name because we no longer work with them, but they were going to be charging us $99 a month. And I remember negotiating that with them because I was like, I need y'all to do it, but I can't afford to pay y'all like $200 for the total, both properties.
Right.
And then our HELOC payment was only $78. And I want to talk a little bit about a HELOC so that you just kind of get an idea of what that is, because a HELOC is literally like a home equity line of credit that you get on your house based on the equity you already have in your house. And we ended up just going back to our mortgage company and just saying, hey, we want to take out a HELOC. They sometimes they'll ask what you're asking, what you want to spend the money for. And we would like to buy investment properties, maybe do some updates to our home. And so that took about 30 days to do that closing, because they do have to come out and do an appraisal on your home. And they will give you 80% equity minus what you owe and give that money to you. And we looked at it as it's a savings account that you only pay interest only whenever you use it. So at that time, I think they gave us about 80,000. So we kept that money in the savings account. We never used it until we were buying this property. And you're paying an interest only, and they give you about 10 years to pay it off, whatever you owe. So our goal was like, let's get this property, let's learn how to go through this, and then eventually we will do a cash out refinance or do something to be able to pull our money and pay off the HELOC later down the line.
Gotcha. So, real quick, Deb, how long did you guys own your property before you were able to build up enough equity to be able to do a HELOC?
So we bought our property right when the last housing crash. So right around 2012. So what was that, like 5 years, 4 or 5 years?
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
we
then,
had a little bit of equity that we were able to pull from that.
gotcha. Okay. And I just
Yeah.
wanted to highlight that because I know we've got some people who are on here watching that have been in their homes longer than that, and they've got a lot of equity that they can use, and it right now is just sitting and collecting dust. Like, make that money work for you. So
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah. And we learned that from listening to podcasts, something similar to our podcast, listening to different podcasts and hearing about how people use what they already have to turn around and make more money for them. And we were terrified because if you talk to most people, they're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to put a lien against my house and I'm not going to do all these different things. But you're already living in your house. You're not moving. You don't have any intent to move. Why not use that money to turn around and make more money for you? Now, I wouldn't say go and do brand new remodels throughout your entire house, because where are you going to make more money to replace that? So be smart with using the money. And that was our goal. And we could have used the entire HELOC to put down on the down payment, but we also wanted to make sure we cash flow, because then it made sense for us.
God.
So that was the other thing. But we were terrified when we bought it. And I will tell you now, looking at it, 2023, we still own that property. My husband thinks we need to sell it because it is kind of an eyesore, but I am so emotionally connected to that house. And I love the cash flow that I get from that house now, that I'm like, I'm never selling that house. Like, I just will never sell those dudes. Because now, 2023, I'm getting like $1,200 to $1,400 a unit
Person.
per side.
Yeah, don't say
No, 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 no.
and,
And we do basic updates, but like, where else are you doing that?
and what's the value of that house now?
So the value of that house is close to 315 now.
And y'all bought it for 125?
Yeah, 128, 128.
Wow.
Yeah. You
And,
can't find a duplex anywhere for 128. Not even wholesalers passing that out with anything. And this one didn't need a lot of work, but you're not finding a duplex anywhere for 128.
and Deborah, did you know that there's lenders out there that they'll give you a HELOC on your investment property? I know that there's not very many at all, but the group that I'm in, the coaching program that I'm in, somebody found a lender that will give you a HELOC on an investment property.
Wow. I need their number.
I
I
know. I'm
definitely need their number.
After we get off of here, I'm gonna go track them down so I can give you their info.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's a game changer,
I know.
because it normally you only see that in your homestead. So to be able to do that with your rental properties, I mean, that's a whole nother layer of equity that you can utilize.
I didn't even know that they did it. I was surprised.
Wow.
They're lying, but no, they were telling the truth.
Wow. Oh,
So
that's beautiful. Sorry, we got off a tangent. I'm
I
just thinking,
know.
oh my gosh, you know what I can do with that?
Girl, I know you got a lot of properties with a lot of equity.
Oh my goodness. So that's pretty much like our first story of us buying our first investment property. And I remember when we bought it, Like there was a relief, but there was still like this tension of like, now what? And literally my husband and I, we looked at each other, we're like, we did it. We did it. Like now we are able to leave something for our kids that no one can take, or no one can say, oh no, they have to have this degree to get this, or they have to do this to get it. I created leverage for them that is going to pass anything else they want to do in life. And because I, leading up to this, I was really stressful thinking, how am I going to pay for college? I'm a principal. Everybody's expecting your child to go to these great schools and do all these things. And yes, my child was only like maybe 5 or 6, but that stuff is real because we were actually interviewing different lenders to do what is that, like the kids college fund, was it
Oh,
529?
yeah.
Yes. And that was kind of what led me when I reached out to someone and I was like, we have this amount of money in the bank. And they're like, well, why aren't you doing something with it? And I'm thinking, well, culturally, we are to save money for a rainy day. So that's why we felt good because we had X amount of cash in the bank. But then when that lady said that, it triggered something as I'm still reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I was like, we got to do something different. Like there has to be something else to do, and that's what led us to now buying this first property for our kids. And I mean, and our kids know like that. And we call it Como because it's in the Como area in Fort Worth. And my kids know that that's our first property. Like that is mommy's heart. Like this is what changed our lives and changed the trajectory, where now mommy can walk y'all to school and mommy can show up to lunch with y'all. Mommy can sit in the freaking parking lot at Target because they should be open at 7 o'clock and they're not. And I got to sit there for 20 minutes and wait till they open at 8. You know, I can
Right.
do that now and not stress out because of that one property.
Starts with one.
It starts with one.
One.
And
Man.
and I tell people all the time, one is not going to make you wealthy. One is not going to make you rich, but it is going to change your life.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, now you got me to thinking because this quadplex that, we're due to close on, this will be my first, not only my first property, but like my first multi-family. And I'm like,
Yes.
I'm thinking 3 years from now, 4 years from now, what will my portfolio look like?
Yes.
But
Yes. And you just got to get started. I
yeah,
mean, I think about, man, if I did this like 15 years ago, where would I be? I'm not even worried about that. I'm just happy I'm in the game.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so Deba, so I want to break down your deal just a little bit more real quick. So, this is the deal that you guys closed on. You guys found that one on Zillow.
Yes, we found it on Zillow. We didn't have a realtor, but there was a picture of somebody right next to Zillow when we were looking at the house, and I just called her. And thinking about it now, I probably should have found a realtor that specializes in investment because I kind of had to lead her in. But she never fought for us to get any type of concessions, which we should have. She never fought for us to get any repairs done, nothing. So your realtor is very, very important.
Gotcha. And then those tenants that were in there when you guys bought the property, are those the same tenants that are there now?
No, we've actually had to, one, we had to evict a month later once we bought it. So that's a whole nother podcast time to talk about that. And then the other one, I remember like it was yesterday, she was always late for rent and she would only pay in ones. And I would have to leave work like around 5 o'clock in the evening, drive all the way to Fort Worth, an hour away, and collect the money. And she would have it in Ziploc bags. And I remember like coming home and telling my kids, do not touch this money. Do not touch this money. I don't want to know where she got it from. I don't want you touching this money. And I remember being too ashamed to for me to go to the bank to deposit it. I would tell my husband, can you deposit this money? Because I don't want nobody looking at me sideways what I do after work. So
Are you guys all ones?
all ones. And when she was late, she was like, don't worry, I'm gonna go to work tonight. I'm gonna make some more. And I'm like, okay, to each his own. But yeah.
Girl, you do you. Sometimes you gotta shake a little tail feather. I don't know.
Yeah, for real. And it's like you buy these rental properties and you don't think about, oh, now I'm a landlord. What does that all entail? So it's just learning as you go, and it's okay not to know everything. Just get yourself around people that do know and make yourself humble to keep asking questions.
Right. Oh wow, that's so good. Okay. So that was your first deal. What were some of the What were some of the major things that you learned throughout that process, the purchase process, that you are still using today?
Yeah. So the first thing is analyzing the deal. Always start and end with the numbers. Don't, you have to put your emotions to the side. Talk to several people about the numbers because they're going to give you insight from their realm of what they're thinking. And they're going to ask more probing questions instead of just because at first my husband and I would just continue to talk to each other. But then we were like, you know what? We have a mentor. Let's reach out to him, tell him what we're thinking about buying, reach out to our lender. This is what we're thinking about buying. And you're getting different lenses from different perspectives to really help you identify if this is what you should do. This was a conventional loan. So this was against our personal credit, our personal income. They used our tax returns to see if we qualified. So I learned a lot through that process. It's tiring, it's overwhelming because they're constantly asking you for documents, things that you've already given them. They want it again, sometimes 5 times. So that was my first thing of like, I got to find another way to buy these properties because I cannot continue to use all of my information and have everything against me.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. And that
Mhm.
started to kind of dive more into like hard money loans and whatnot.
Yes, yes, which led into like another deal of really getting into like the burr. Cause I kind of feel like the way we bought this property, this is like I don't take this as like a real investor, because this is like it's just a platter. It's like a plate. You go to the MLS, you find it, you get a realtor to do it. It's not the nitty gritty of being a real life real estate investor. I think it's just, hey, like you're getting your feet wet. Not
Mhm.
until you start doing rehabs and you start dealing with true contractors and you're trying to make nothing out of something where I can say, okay, that's real life real estate investing.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, lead us to the property that you guys purchased using hard money and the BRRRR strategy and how that process went.
Yeah. So my first bird strategy was not too far away from that first one. I think it took us about maybe another year before we were ready to like add more money and feel comfortable using hard money. When you first learn about hard money, because hard money is a short term loan and it's usually not like a conventional loan, they kind of use your credit, but it's really based on a short term loan for 6 to 12 months. It's a high interest payment. Their terms are different because their terms are based on the rehab and the purchase price of the property. And then from there, they only give you a certain amount. So some hard money lenders will give you 70% of the ARV. And that ARV is the after repair value. So once the house is completed and someone wants to move in, they're basing their numbers off of that, not the current price of the house that needs work.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that one was in Fort Worth as well. Again, we were about an hour away, but that's where the numbers were. And now, we bought that property for 65,000. And what's really interesting, we found that property again on the MLS.
Really?
I remember literally going to church that Sunday morning. And we probably need to get our husbands on this call because once you meet my husband, you can't tell him like a week from now, hey, we're going to go check out this property. I literally tell him right after church. He's like, oh, what are we going to eat for lunch? Well, we're going to swing by this property real quick and we just go check it out. And I need like him because he's a big body and he'll make sure he bring his gun because at that point I'm too terrified to walk properties by myself. So I'm
Right.
like, we're just gonna go to Fort Worth and like check out this property. And then he looks at me like with deer in headlights and he's like, okay, let's she's on this crazy hunt with houses now. So let's just do it.
Right.
So we do that. And this was so we bought that first property October 2018. The next one was March 29th, 2019.
Okay.
And so this one we found on the MLS. It was for 65,000. Literally, it was like dictionary burr. It was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, but the square feet was 1,100. So as soon as you hear that, you're like, I can create a bedroom in this. And
Hmm.
so we walked the property. It was a very old home. I think it was built in 1927. Um, in like close to like the downtown area in Fort Worth. And we ended up going to a hard money lender. And now it took us a while to go with the hard money lender because we were thinking hard money lender is kind of like I'm a loan shark mindset, like you pay here, buy here type of mindset. But we were like, this is the only way that we can do this and scale. And we're listening to our mentor, listening to podcasts. So we just said, let's just do it. So we ended up going to our hard money lender. They were literally able to pay 75% of that ARV. Um, and then we decided that we found contractors. And again, we found these contractors on Facebook. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. We didn't know any better. So we're like, oh, we're in a Facebook investment group. Let me say, hey, can I find a GC that can manage an entire rehab project? And the first person that says yes, they can, I call them up. They meet me. They sound good. I mean, they sound like they know what they're doing. So we go ahead and do that. The rehab cost ended up being close to 25,000 for the full rehab. We needed foundation. We needed insulation because the house was so old. It was not insulated at all. It didn't have an AC unit at all. So we had to put air ducts, a condenser, everything in, update the electrical. We framed out like some parts of the back of the house to add square footage. And then my contractor, just the setup of the house is just so messed up because we added another bathroom, but the bathroom that we added was in the hallway, but it was only a half bath. So the
Okay.
real full bathroom was in a bedroom.
Oh,
It
oh,
was so awkward. It was so stupid, but we didn't know any better. So we were like, we'll just figure it out.
right.
And even to this day, that house is still the same.
Really?
Yeah.
So if there's multiple people living in that house, they all have to go to somebody's bedroom to take a
Take
shower.
a shower.
But
I
it's but it's still getting rented out though, ain't
It's
it?
still getting rented out. And I'm just like, you know what? If y'all like it, I love it. Sorry. I mean, so that's what like, and I guess for the viewers listening, it's okay to make mistakes. Like I'm dealing with this same mistake. Like it's okay. Just know, hey, you just got to go through it. Just know you just got to go through it.
Yeah.
So, in this particular deal, because we had given up all our money on that duplex, and because that duplex, there wasn't a cash out refinance, not really a way to get your money back immediately. So that money that we put up, the 36,000, it just sits there for a while, right? And
Mhm.
so on this deal, I had to reach out to partners, and I reached out to my brother-in-law that was willing to invest half of his money up, and we brought the other half and we just split it all down the middle throughout the entire process.
Got it.
Um, and he's still one of my partners now. And I didn't even know I was raising capital until thinking about it now. Like, hey, I did that from the beginning.
Right. You were raising capital.
And so this rehab process probably lasted for us maybe about 45 days or so. And again, I was still working my full time job. So the only time I could get out there was on the weekend. So I would just set up a meeting every Saturday morning and I would get out there like 6 o'clock in the morning so I could go out there, walk it with the contractor. He can keep me up to date on what was going on. He would send me pictures every other day throughout the week just so I can keep up with what's going on. And then my brother-in-law, when he was off of work, because he lived in Fort Worth, he would stop in during the week as well. So we just kind of did a tag team to try to get the job done.
Gotcha.
So we did all that. And then now the house was able to be rented out. And so I thought that once the house is updated, we were going to be able to, it would appraise for like 130. So we get it rented out for right at I think $1,100 a month, maybe not even that much, maybe 1,000 at that point. So we were good with it. Like, okay, it's rented out for $1,000 a month. Now, after 3 months, because the lender we were using was actually going to be a cash out refinance conventional loan still against our name because we didn't know that there were LLC lenders out there. We didn't know any better. We just thought you just lend it against ourselves. Well, that particular lender says you have to hold that property in your name for 6 months. So we're just collecting rent and we're just paying interest payments to our hard money lender every month until we get right to that 6 month loan. We get to the 6 month loan and then I reach out to my lender. Hey, let's do this. Let's do the appraisal. Let's get this going. The realtor that I was using at the time, she told me that the house was going to appraise at 130.
Mhm.
That house appraised for 103.
Whew.
I'm all in at 110.
Whew.
Something don't add up. So
Right.
I called the realtor and I'm like, hey, can you send me comms? You told me it was going to appraise at 130. Like, I have someone I need to pay this money back. And I could not tell him that I messed up because he really trusted me. And she was like, well, I'll look. I never heard from her again. I
What?
never heard from her again. So what did I do? I said, you know what? I'm never going to treat anyone that way. I will never treat anyone that way. So that's what motivated me to become a realtor. And I told myself that if I will tell you no before I tell you yes, just so I can make a check, make some money. It's not that serious for me, because the bad taste in my mouth that I had for realtors, it continues to stay even when I go against another realtor that doesn't know what she's doing and still trying to tell someone how to do it. I'm like, you're going to get somebody in so much trouble and they're going to lose so much money just because you want to just get a commission.
Right. It. Oh, go ahead, Deborah.
Oh,
Because
no, go ahead.
well, and I was going to ask. So, tell people, how important is it to understand how to run your own comps?
It is so, so important, because what I was doing, I was dependent on this realtor that I felt was an expert in real estate that clearly was not. And I was putting all my marbles and everything I did into whatever this realtor told me.
Mhm.
And at that point, I lost my power because I was just depending on her. And I didn't know there was another way that I could literally do it myself and I could figure this out on myself. I didn't know any other way. I just thought the realtor is going to tell me and it's going to hit exactly what she says.
Mhm.
Now I know better that, hey, next time I should have went and talked to another realtor. Next time I should have just got on Zillow and just see what houses sell in that same area. That would have been enough for me to know she's just making stuff up because she wanted to make a commission.
Right. Right.
And she
Wow.
was the one that helped me buy the property. So she was getting commission off the initial purchase. Then she was getting commission off of helping me find the tenant. And then when it was like 6 months later, hey, I need your help, crickets.
Oh my God. Okay, so now you have to tell us, like, how were you able to pay the hard money lender back? Did you guys have to wait for it to appraise higher? What did you do?
We just ate that money, literally. So what we ended up doing, I called my brother-in-law, told him the situation, and I said, hey, I don't know how quickly you need that money back, but I'm willing to give you monthly payments to pay you back while we're still keeping this property. I'll even add some additional funds on top of the cash flow that we're making. I just want to make this right. And thank God he was such a blessing. And he was like, hey, we in this together. If I don't make any money, you don't make any money. We just do this together.
Oh,
One thing he did tell me, and it was just he and I on the phone, he was like, I trust you. So whatever next deal you find, you let me know because I still want to do this with you.
oh,
I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I did not know what I was doing when I started. But to have someone that wasn't my husband, that was my brother-in-law, not even my blood brother,
right.
tell me, hey, I literally trust you. That gave me more ammunition and gave me more confidence that I'm like, even to this day, like he just bought another property like last month. And he's still like, I don't buy nothing unless Deba tells me to buy it. And I'm like, I truly, and I don't think he really knows the magnitude of how much I appreciate him, because no one else in my family at that time was really like, okay, Deborah, we believe in you. Go ahead and do it. Let me give you some money to do this. And he put up like almost 20,000 to do this deal. And even to this day, 2023, we still own that property. We're still cash flowing. Like now the rent is close to 1,500 and
Oh,
our mortgage is like $700 a month, and we're still cash flowing. And he's like, hey, that's just a property that we have together that's going to take care of his son, my kids. I mean, and it's a blessing to have a close family that still will support you even though you messed up with their money.
oh, and there, oh man, there's, oh God, there's so much to unpack in just that, like right there. Um, oh God, where do I even begin? Deba, okay, most people, when they go through something like that, where, they're in a real estate deal and they lose money like that, or just something catastrophic happens, that will put such a bad taste in people's mouth that they decide, you know what, maybe real estate investing is not for me. But you continue to buy more property and to go at it again. What was it, your brother-in-law that gave that encouragement to continue to go? Because man, taking a loss off the bat, that would have wiped a lot of people out.
Yeah, and I will say it did wipe me out for a little bit because I didn't buy my next property till 2019. And I was like, I got to figure out a way to do this better. There has to be a better way to doing this. And then that's when I ended up walking away from my job. I walked away from my job like 6 months later after I bought this property. I started working on my real estate license because I said I need to take back my power. If I can be a realtor, I can get better deals, I can connect with more people, and that's going to help me leverage what I know and then build more of my skill set. And so having my brother-in-law just still encouraging me, having my husband still encourage me and saying, hey, we're on to something. We just got to refine it, figure it out. And knowing that we cut back a lot. So it wasn't like the money that I was spending was actually interfering with our daily living. So this was money that we had set aside and said, you know what? Real estate is a risk, but we're going to jump in it. We're going to see what happens. And it wasn't money that we needed to pay our bills for the next month.
Gotcha.
And we kind of looked at it as like, yes, that money is parked in the bricks, but we were still cash flowing. So although it really wasn't cash flow because I still owed money, I was still making something. And that's what kind of continued us to say, as long as we refine this and we figure it out, we will make money.
Right. And so for Deba, for somebody that and I don't know if you can even speak to this, somebody who doesn't have that support system, their husband is not supportive. They don't have a brother-in-law who's, willing to take another chance on them. What can you tell that person?
Do it anyways. Do it anyways. And I tell you why, because my husband was on board, but I'm a very like, my personality is very strong and I don't stop talking about something that I really want to do. So my husband has a tendency of just like, let me just get out of her way because she seems like she really want to do this. And he was like, I see it, but I don't get it. I don't understand it, but you seem very persistent. So I'm just going to let you do your thing and I'm here to support, but I don't want to be in this day-to-day stuff with you. And
Yeah.
so I think I showed my husband what was possible because when we first bought this property, we were like, we'll just buy 5 properties and I think we're okay. And I was like, 5? Like, I'm trying to do like 25. I'm trying to really blow this thing out the water.
Right.
But he was okay. And I just kept going a little bit at a time, going a little bit at a time. And now we're at a place where he's like, did we find another property this week? Like, where are we at? Like, so it's someone has to be the leader. Someone has to be the one that says, okay, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to get this done. Someone has to be that one.
Wow. Wow. So, wow, that's just that's so it's so impactful, Deba, because I feel like a lot of us are in that same kind of situation, especially us women, as strong women, where we are the ones that are like the real estate investors, and our husbands are just kind of like there to kind of like be our cheerleader, but they really don't want to like be in like the nitty gritty of it. That's why it's so important to have other people around you, right? That's why it's so important to have coaches, to have other investors, to have lenders, people that you can talk to, because like I said, sometimes my husband don't want to talk about real estate. Like
Right.
I've been, talking about this quadplex and all that other stuff, and he's just like, "Look, just let me know when we close." Like,
Right.
I'm just like, and I'm over here talking about these violations and this and that, and you can just kind of see his eyes kind of just starting to glaze over, and I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yes, that's literally my husband. Most time I don't even tell him we bought something until after, hey, I need you to be here to close because they need your signature too, because you on the LLC. Like, I
right.
just need you to be here. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. I love that, Deborah. And so I know that we got to go here in a minute, but how long was it before you purchased your next property after that second one?
Yeah, so this one was purchased on March 29, 2019. The next one was not purchased until August of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. And then since then, it's one of those like I feel like I'm in a consumption phase now. Like I know how to look at the numbers, I know what I'm looking for. I'm even like so specific on the area. I only buy in Garland. So anything else I don't even look at. And I can literally because I've analyzed so many deals, the deals just pop up in my face. And it's like a creativity. Like I just see the colors and I'm like, oh, that's the deal we're gonna buy. And we just move on. So You got to go through not knowing, you got to go through sometimes losing money. So you got to go through all those to build up the capacity and build up your confidence to say, I know a good deal when I see one.
And is the reason why you guys chose Garland was because it was closer to your where you currently live, or just because it was a better market than Fort Worth?
Well, when I first started, I was looking for cheap. And if you know me and you really know me, you know I'm cheap as hell. Like I'm cheap as hell. I want to find houses that are 55,000 and make it work.
Right.
But you deal with more headaches when you go real cheap. And so I had to build the capacity of like, okay, let's buy houses that are 150. Let's buy houses that are 200,000. One, your return is more, so your spread is more. Two, you're in a better neighborhood. Three, you're going to get a higher rent rate. And four, it's just better. Like, and it was local to us, closer to us. We were able to manage it a lot better than being in Fort Worth, having to just make an initial 45-minute drive just to get there for 30 minutes and then drive all the way back home. It just made better sense for us. And the taxes are good. Like we have tenants in some of our properties that they've been there for 3-4 years and they don't want to move.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so good. Oh man. Okay, so Deborah, one last thing. What is some advice that you can give somebody who is where you were in 2018? What is the best advice that you can give them to get started and to get out of their own way?
I would say find you a local mentor. Find someone that lives in your area that's doing what you want to do, that's living the life that you want to live. Because you'll be surprised that those people are so eager to pour information out and share information because they don't want you to go through the same things that they went through. And be okay to pay them because it took a lot of work for them to learn what they learned and go through what they went through. And I'm not saying you got to pay them thousands and thousands of dollars, but be appreciative of their time. Take them out to lunch. Like give them and show them that I appreciate you taking time to meet with me because when they say yes to you, they're saying no to something else that could be making money for them. So
Yeah.
just be mindful of that and just do it. Like if you stay where you're at, just working your W-2, you know what that's going to bring you in 5 years. Because I did that back in 2018, I live a life that nobody even understands for most people in my day to day. Hell, I don't even understand it half of the time. So it just do it. And whatever God continues to nudge at you, he's just saying, I've already prepared the place. I just need you to take the step.
Mm, just need you to skip the step. I hope that you guys heard that. If you stay where you are right now, you're going to be in that same place 5 years from now. You have to do something different to see something different.
Yes. Oh, that was a word.
Yeah. Oh man, that was good. Well, we are just about it on time, but Deba, thank you so much for sharing your experience with your first rental properties. I know so many people are taking a lot from this because a lot of people, like I said, have a home that they can do a HELOC. They're in their W-2s and they have money sitting in savings, thinking that they're doing something. Because I know I did the first time I was able to save $20,000 and not touch it for 12 months, I thought that, oh man, we have literally made it in the world,
Yes. Yes.
right? But, that's a cultural thing, you guys. That's a cultural thing that we have to get past because just saving alone is not going to create wealth.
No. No. Not
So,
at all.
anyhow, I love this. I love this episode. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Um, subscribe, comment, share with us what else you guys want to hear. And we're going to get some more guests on here to share their stories as well. But as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
See
Bye.
you next week.